Hey YouTube, welcome to the next installment of In Exilium Progress. You'll have to forgive me, I'm a little under the weather, so if my voice sounds a little groggy, that would be why. I haven't posted a video in quite some time. There are a couple of reasons for that, but the main reason is once again I've kind of done a major overhaul of the entire game design. Um, I'll go over some of the reasons why I made these changes, and I'll talk a little bit about future updates, how they'll be scheduled and why. And of course I'll be talking about the new stuff in the game. Alright, so first off, the main reason why there's been so much time between the last video is, like I mentioned, I did a huge overhaul to the game design to allow for a lot more simplicity in the features of the game, and to allow kind of more creative player interaction. Now, I'll kind of just a little brief history. This all started when I decided I wanted to introduce networking into the game. So I took a good couple months and just completely entrenched myself in networking code, third-party tools, trying to figure out the most optimal way to get kind of my vision for networking done. But ultimately, I realized that, or I came to the realization that my ambition for the networking code was just too complex for me to implement on my own in a time frame in which I would like to implement it. So I was kind of grinding over some ideas, and it finally dawned on me that networking over a tile-based map system would eliminate a lot of the challenges I was facing previously. So instead of having to send constant real-time data all the time to all the clients, I could just push map states and map events, and the client itself would be able to interpret and update as required. So this was the kind of beginning of this drastic changes that I have implemented so far. So I basically tore everything down to the root and reconstructed it up on a tiled map framework. So as you can see now, here's my guy. Simple. I just have a simple map right here. Here's my guy. He's moving in a tiled system. Okay, so I implemented my own tiling engine and everything. That he runs on, and all items and all everything are placed on specific tiles. So I have a command in here. Let's see, create item dagger. Okay, so now the dagger here is going to be placed in a tiled fashion. You can't pick it up unless you're on top of the tile that it's in, so on and so forth. Other things that I'll get into, like structures, resources, enemies, everything like that, everything's in tiles. Gist of it. Also, I kind of revamped the GUI once again, even though the previous GUI I had was really awesome and I had great artwork done by Gray Walker, if anyone remembers. But just the GUI system I had was really complex. It was actually modeled after the Guild Wars 2 GUI system, and this game is just not that complex. Like, it doesn't need the complexity, and what it was doing, it was just creating a little more confusion than necessary, and it was just getting a lot more difficult to add new GUI features. So I kind of reverted back to a really simple GUI system that I had, which was kind of the original GUI idea that I had when I first started implementing this game. So you have your basic status info over here. You just have your health and your energy, and then a little thing here that I've just put in, a text box right here that I've put in just for typing commands. As you can see, like just kind of administrative commands, I can create the dagger. Then all your other windows are just over here. So here there's no images or anything, but this is the character screen. So same kind of basic information. You have your stats, your character information. In here you can load up your inventory and your crafting windows, and I'll get into both of those later. And then you have your spells screen, skills, I'll get into those, events, whatever. So, I mean, might be more windows, there might be less, I don't really quite know yet. Haven't completely fleshed out everything that I want in there. But super simple system. Once again, just kind of one of the main themes of me doing this overhaul is to simplify as many things as possible, just to uh, allow me better vision of a completed game. When you have so many complicated things, it's kind of hard to envision what the end game is going to look like. So if you simplify everything down, you can get at least a better vision of what you want the end game to look like. And I feel like I have a better idea of that now too. And also it'll increase my chances of actually completing this game. This has been a project that's been really close to me, and I really want to finish it. So I want to make it kind of as simple as possible at first until I get something that's finished, and then can maybe add complexity after that. Um, anyway, and yes, this new GUI kind of just reflects this simplicity. Now back to the tiled mapping. Another benefit of it is it allows for easier map generation or map creation. I thought I always wanted, like, when I get to the stage where I'm going to start doing level design, I wanted an easy way to kind of streamline my map making process. And if I have to just go into the Unity editor and do everything through that, I mean, I'd be able to create probably a little more detailed and complex maps, but it wouldn't allow me to streamline the process. Everything would have to be separate. Everything would be just, it would just be a lot more complicated to work with. It wouldn't be a really smooth like workflow. So I created a map editor, and another good thing about tiled mapping is that map editors are easy. And also, I think one of the great things that games are doing these days is allowing players access to the map editor so they can create um, their own maps and their own challenges. And for the context of this game, be it, creating your own challenge maps and own stuff like that, quest maps, whatever. Um, I thought that that would be a great idea to add to this game, and it would add a whole kind of other dimension to the playability of this game. So I'll go and show this off here. Go back to the main menu. Yeah, here's the main menu. Like I said, I stripped basically everything down to its just base uh, base components. I'm not. I'm really gonna try not to add any good looking, kind of fancy GUI stuff or anything until I have all the features I want down. This was just kind of another trap that I seem to always fall into. I fell into it last time, and I was just starting to make everything look good, and all it does is make it harder to add new stuff, because every time you want to add something new, you have to make it look good also, or else your whole game just looks like crap and you feel like crap for not implementing something that meets the standards of everything else that you've already created. But if everything looks like crap, then you're perfectly fine creating something else that looks like crap that's just, feature functionality. And then you can kind of iterate through at the end and just make everything look good. It allows for the creative process to kind of flow. It allows for feature implementation to not be stopped short in any way, shape, or form. It just allows kind of the creative process to keep going without having to worry about whether things look good or not. So here's the super simple main menu. Uh, let's go ahead and load into the map editor, like I said. So here's the map editor. It's really, really simple. Right now it's just a default map, 10 by 10. You'll see over here you have some options. You can open a map that you've already created, or you'll be able to just kind of create the map, set the size. There are different tools here that allow you to do different stuff that I'll get into. Then you can save it, so forth. So let's just open the map that we had already. I think I just called it test. All right, so here it is. It's just a dirt 20 by 20 map, just dirt textures all over, and you'll see here it's got this purple square down here. Now that is the starting position. Now I have put this kind of tile info window over here, so any tile that you're moused over, it'll just tell you what, the properties of that tile. So you can see all these tiles are enabled, which means that the player can run on them, or things can be placed on them, or it's not filled. And then this purple one is a starting tile as well. So that's just a brief overview. Let's create a new map. So let's make a 50 by 50 map. Once again, these are just kind of hard coded in sizes until I work out the details. This is a really basic map editor right now. So let's make a 50 by 50 map. We'll check out some of the tools here. So this empty and full tool should probably be named enabled and disabled, because that's what it does. It's for enabling and disabling tiles. I don't know why I call it empty full. I'll have to change that. Then you can paint the textures, and that's just the ground textures. All the textures are going to be on the ground. So in this tool, see here, you can select your texture type. Once again, I only have a few: grass, dirt, sand, stone, or empty. So if we let's make this new map. Let's just put some grass up here, down here. Just kind of try to ladder our way up. So we got kind of grass on this side, and we can put maybe some dirt in between. Kind of make a dirt little separator there, and then let's put some sand. Okay, now in order to save a map, you need to have it needs to have some certain qualities. So it has to have a name, and the other thing it has to have is a starting position. So let's go to the tool, set starting position. And we'll put ourselves down over here in the bottom right corner. All right, so the next, let's go over this empty full thing. I'll explain this a little bit. So the disabled tile, if you want to disable some tiles, you just kind of click over them, and what this does is it creates a full tile, so that the player, how my tile engine works is that if the tile is full, you can't move on to it. So it just like sets the default value of this tile to full, so a player can't get around. So if I want to kind of section off areas that I don't want the player to go to, I would use this disabled thing to whatever. Let's say I only want the player to access this part of the map, then I just disable all these tiles, and then he wouldn't be able to walk through. Let's go and enable these again. I don't know why I did that. And I'll kind of get into applications as to why will be a beneficial tool in just a second. Okay, so let's just go on down. So paint texture, you saw that. One of the other things you can do is empty a texture. Now, when you have an empty texture, how it's going to show up in the map is as a clear, you'll be able to see through these zones on the map. So each map is basically kind of like a floating island, a big square island that is made up of a bunch of these textured chunks. Now, if there's an empty textured chunk, then it means you'll be able to see through the island. Now, what that will allow for is some kind of interesting design. What's going to happen, a feature for the maps that I haven't implemented yet, is to have kind of a background texture. So let's say you want to have a kind of beach map, which might be something like this. Like you've got the beach down here, and then it transitions to some grassy forests. Never know. But you might want to have a underlying texture of water that's going to be kind of underneath the whole island, and then you'll be able to see through it. So if you wanted a little puddle, you'd put like this right there, and it would just be kind of like a hollow zone in this like floating island map, and you'd be able to see the water underneath it. I still have to implement that and just kind of play around with some things to see how it works, see how it looks, and see if it's something I really want to have. But I'm kind of liking this kind of like every map is kind of just like a floating island thing. Now, this brings me back to a practical application for this empty full thing. So if you have a section here that is see-through, the player's still going to be able to walk over these tiles because these tiles still exist. There's still a collider that goes on there. So you're going to want to tile off, probably not right there, you're going to want to do it, yeah, in here, tile off this area so that the player can't run onto areas where there's no ground. And also another thing is, let's say you don't want the kind of floating island effect, because right now what will happen is if you walk over to the edge, you'll be able to see kind of like it falls off, like there's kind of like some depth to these tiles, and it just kind of goes down into the ground and it cuts off, and then you'll be able to see the background texture. So it'll look kind of like a floating island. But if you don't want to see that, then what you'll want to do is kind of section off an area inside the map. You'll maybe make a 200 by 200 map or larger if I ever get around to that. And you just kind of section off the middle area so that the player can't even walk outside of it to see kind of the edges of the map. That's just another application. All right, next tool, structures. Add a structure. So one of the things that I've implemented in the game, kind of a new feature in the game, is this idea of structures. Now, a structure can either be friendly or an enemy. Now, if this structure is an enemy structure, it acts basically just like an enemy. Think of like if there's like an enemy turret or something like that, like, or just an enemy. Like I only have wood blocks. It's the only structure I have created so far. So just a wood block, that's an enemy. So it basically serves the same purpose as like a dummy, except you don't get experience. Well, maybe you will. I haven't implemented that yet. But so let's put a couple enemy structures here. So you see if you add a structure and it's an enemy structure, the tile's just going to show up as kind of an outlined red thing, and then you mouse over it and you can see that it has a structure down there in the tile info box, and it's a wood block and it's an enemy. Now friendly structures you can interact with and actually disassemble and turn into items and carry them around and place them around and create them and stuff. So structures are actually, you're going to be able to make structures through crafting. So just for example, a simple example would be this wood block can be made with 3 pieces of wood. So if you get 3 pieces of wood, you can create the item that is a wood block, and then in your inventory, if you double click it, you will instantiate the structure, which is a wood block. And once again, I'll kind of explain that when I get into playing this map here, and I'll show off some of the features. Okay, so we have our friendly structures there, and that's it. There's just enemy structures, friendly structures, and there will be more structures added in the future. Next is spawners. So here is where we spawn. We create the spawners that will spawn either enemies or resources. So we have this type here, enemy or resource. For enemies, we have dummies and wolves. Those are the only 2 enemies I have so far. You can create the size of the spawner. So this is the diameter of the, or basically the size of the square that the spawns will spawn within. So let's just create a 13 by 13. Let's go 7 by 7. Spawner of dummies, and the max number in it will be 3. Okay, so only 3. We'll place it right over here. Okay, so on this square you can see the spawners are all outlined in this kind of orange thing, and you can mouse over in Talentful. It's a dummy, 7 by 7. Okay, so this 7 squares over, so 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the same up this kind of square area right here. There's going to be spawners that spawn dummies every 5 seconds, I think is what I have at default right now. That's going to be a thing that you'll be able to change, is how quickly they spawn. But right now I think it's just set at 5 seconds. And the maximum number is 3 in there. So we can also add, let's add a wolf. Let's make it a little bigger, 13 by 13. Put 5 in here, and we'll put it up. We'll put it up over here. Okay, so now there's going to be 5 wolves in this area up over here. Now we can do the same with resources. Now resources are things that you gather. You'll be able to kind of use your skills, which is another thing I'll get into, and gather resources from these types of guys here. So right now I only have a palm tree, so let's create the same thing over here. We'll just put a palm tree spawner right there, so it spawns palm trees, and palm trees will be able to go up and harvest wood, is basically what it is, and it'll increase your harvesting skill. Alright, so now the next one, set starting position. We already covered that. And then this add portal one I haven't implemented yet, but that's basically going to be once we create, let's say we have this map, this test map, and we want it to connect to another map, so we put like a couple we just tile off a couple tiles over here, portals, and then we'd name the map, the next map that we want it to go to. So when you walk on it, it loads the next map. That's just how you're going to be able to transfer between maps. Now, this is going to be implemented in the future. This is, like I said, this is a really simple map editor right now. Other things that are going to be implemented in the future is you're going to be able to put events and challenges into the maps, and you'll be able to add terrain objects is what I'm going to call them, and I'll explain all that a little later when I actually implement it. But anyway, so that's the basics of this map here. So let's go ahead and save our test map here. All this information is being saved out to a debug file. That's why you don't see anything that says like map saved. Of course, all that stuff will be added in eventually. Let's go on back, and then we can load a custom map. So if we load our test map here, there we go. So as you see, here's the kind of floating like island effect where I started off in the corner here with some sand, and it just kind of drops off, and then this blue out here, you'll be able to see kind of maybe an ocean underneath, you know, or something like that, or you could put lava or whatever it may be. So here are the three friendly structures that we had. They're just wood blocks, and as you can see, when I mouse over them, my mouse turns green, and when the mouse turns green, that means you can interact with it. So for structures, once one's created and it's friendly, if you double click it, it basically turns back into the item form of it. So let's pick it up and check our inventory. Don't bother this red X here. This is just a temporary picture I'm using for everything right now, just as a placeholder. But you mouse over, you see it's a wood block. It says it's a structure, and we have one of them. So let's pick up all of them. So now we have 3 wood blocks. Now we can go and set these anywhere. So we can create kind of a wood wall here if we want, whatever. And there'll be more complex structures we'll be able to pick up. We'll be able to create walls, and you'll be able to create turrets, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that we'll be able to make that will have different kind of effects. But yeah, so that's the basics of structures. Now here's the dummy spawner we put in. So it just spawns 3 dummies. You can go ahead and just kind of kill one of these guys here, and you'll just see that. There we go. So we killed one, and then another. Yeah, there we go. So it's always going to have 3 kind of in this zone here. Now we can see our wolves up here. Same kind of a deal. I'm not going to fight these guys because there's a good chance that they'll kill me. So I'll just kind of run away. Here's the palm trees down here that we had. So harvesting. This is gonna. Let's go and dive into this. So there are skills now that you have. As you can see here, my one-handed weapon skill's up a little bit because I hit those dummies. Now, every time you accomplish a hit or a successful hit of one of these skills, you increase your skill level, and then you'll be able to have higher hitting probability with one-handed weapons. If that skill goes up, your harvesting probability will go up, shield, whatever, all these different things. So when you mouse over a resource, it'll turn into this kind of blue pickaxe thing here, and we can just go up and we'll start kind of hitting at it. And because our harvesting level is so low, it's going to take a little while to kind of get pieces off. Luckily, this palm tree is actually a really easy thing to harvest, but there will be other resources that are going to be a lot harder to harvest, and you're going to need to have higher harvesting levels to be able to do it. But as you can see, we just harvested some wood here from this tree. We'll just keep going. We'll harvest a little more wood. And as you can see, as the wood falls off of the tree, my harvesting skill is going to be going up. There we go, got another piece. And these spawners act exactly the same, so there should be about, I think I made it a 5 spawner or 5 resource spawner here, so there should always be kind of 5 palm trees around in here. Come on, just one. Alright, I think I have enough. How many pieces of wood? Okay, I have 3 pieces of wood. That's good enough. But as you can see, as you successfully harvest, your harvesting skill go up, and it's the same for all of these different things. So now we can get into crafting. So crafting works a kind of a similar way as the Minecraft crafting system. You just kind of drag your items in there. So always puts 1 piece of wood in there at a time. And as you could have seen there, 1 piece of wood creates 3 sticks. Now sticks don't do anything right now, so I won't even bother with them. 2 pieces of wood creates 6 sticks, and then 3 pieces of wood creates a wood block, just like we have here. So we can take this out, put it up here, and as soon as we put it up there, we check our skill. There we go, our crafting skill has gone up because we successfully crafted an item. So now we have our wood structure. So that's how you're going to be able to create friendly structures. Now if we go up in our top left corner here, remember we had the enemy structures, and like I said, these you can only attack them. So think of if there's like an enemy fort or something like that, and they have turrets, like they'll attack you, and you'll just have to attack them. They're just like enemies. Now I'll go up and show off the significance up over here. So here's the area in the map editor. Remember that we kind of tiled off and made so it's invisible. You'll be able to see through it, but because we put the barriers there, we cannot walk up here. If we hadn't have put that disabled barrier up here, then we would be able to just kind of walk into this open area. Alright, so we covered spawns, resource gathering, crafting, skills, items. I showed you a little bit of that. Right now the equipment is not working because I actually have acquired the help of a 3D modeler who's actually creating a whole new character model and animations for me right now that's going to look pretty good. So I'm kind of waiting until I hit this new model with all the rigging and all that stuff before I implement kind of all the equipment. He's going to be creating armors and stuff for it too, so I'm really looking forward to that. So the equipment's kind of on hold right now, but as you can see, I've simplified it down. I'll go into it more when it's working, but it's going to be basically the same. A lot of the features are basically the same, but it's surprisingly enough, it's a lot simpler and easier to use. So the last thing I kind of want to talk about is the spell casting. So once again, it works kind of the same, but I'm using a new particle system and kind of a new method of implementing, or a new particle system and kind of a new method of how it works. Now it works based on tiles instead of actually hitting the object. So we'll see here, fireball, if it's there are 3 types of kind of spells right now. There's a projectile, which is this guy. It shoots out, and when it gets over the tile that you click on, so if I click up here, it's going to do damage to everything in those surrounding tiles. So shoot over here, he walked away, so he wasn't in there. Got hit, there we go. This guy kind of got a little area of effect place, so it'll hit multiple enemies kind of close by. The next is your typical AoE type of spell, so kind of a poison cloud here, deals damage to everything within it until they move out, just at a kind of a current rate, and it'll poison them and so on and so forth. And then the last one is just an immediate on tile effect. So as soon as this lightning bolt, as soon as I click the tile that I want to attack, it strikes and attacks. And this is going to be the same kind of method used for things like healing or paralyzing. Let's say you want to paralyze your opponent, you got to be able to click on the tile that he's on, so on and so forth. So this is just kind of the new spell system. There is a spells tab here that's going to list things off, and I'm still kind of debating whether I'm going to have a spells indicator down here that'll show what's equipped to what, or what button to use, or whatever to put your spells on. But basically it all works, and it works a lot smoother than my previous spell system. My previous spell system was super glitchy, but when you make everything map tiled, it kind of like, it really simplifies everything there. It works pretty smoothly and flawlessly right now. Anyway, so I know this was a long video. That's all I have for this week. This was just to show kind of the basic features and the basic map editor. I'm kind of calling this Milestone 1, implementing super basic features, just a broad spectrum, so like resource harvesting, enemy spawning, structures, so map editor. Like Milestone 1 is just the basic. Then Milestone 2 is going to have kind of the rest of the basic features. So after Milestone 2, I want to be able to jump into actual level design. So at the end of the next milestone, I want to have kind of day, night cycle, time cycle, events and challenges, equipment, of course, and then make the map editor a lot kind of more powerful than just being able to create really simple little things here. So that's yeah, so the next video is going to be released when all that stuff is done. So I didn't really talk about the release schedule for the videos and stuff, and um, I think I'm going to just, it was becoming a lot of pressure on me to put videos out every 2 weeks at a consistent schedule. I know that that's something that's really kind of valued when people are putting content up on YouTube, but uh, if I didn't have enough to show or I was busy doing stuff, I always felt really bad, and I didn't want to just throw up some trash and not have a lot to show. And also, it was it was just kind of getting a little too much for me to be showing everything all the time, like everything I'm doing. I want there to be some mystery to this game, you know, when I finally finish it. I want people to be able to play and be like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that," instead of every single little thing being explained every 2 weeks, you know. And also, working on two games at once is just too hard for me. I thought that it would be able to keep me kind of interactive with both of them and make it so I don't get burnt out with one project or the other, but I ended up just getting burnt out with both. So I'm going to stick to this for quite some time until it's all done, and then maybe move on to something else. Or I'll kind of sprinkle in work on another game like here and there, but it's going to be very sporadic if at all. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry the video is long, just had a lot to talk about. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at Milestone 2. Please leave some feedback. I really enjoy it. Thanks.